Hi there, folks. I'm here with my friend Kenny Miller, who is now, is it assistant coach at Newcastle Jets, Kenny?
That's correct, Donald. I've been there for, it's been for 2 months before all the lockdown and the virus really picked up. So Australia went into a kind of level of lockdown as well, shut the football down. We actually had 2 games, because we only got 4 games left, 4 or 5 games left. So we actually had 2 games just to the end there behind closed doors, like trying. That was the kind of first opportunity to try and get it completed, and decided to go behind closed doors and things. But it's it come quickly. It come to an abrupt end, and that's it. Things were going really well for us. Really enjoying the work. So actually at the moment now, really looking forward to getting back out there and hopefully finishing the season off safely, and then building towards next year.
Brilliant, Kenny. Could you tell me a little bit about, we were speaking before we came online about your influences, but the first question is, how did you initially fall in love with the game? What's your first experience of just loving football and getting into it?
Well, always, I can remember when I was young. I was young, 4 or 5, I would imagine, and I was kicking a ball anyway.
Yeah.
I was kicking a ball about the house. My dad played football. It was, I'd never made professional, but he played with a lot of the junior teams in and around the Edinburgh area. So he was Whitehall Welfare, he was Arniston Rangers, he was Ormiston, all these kind of, like at that time, like decent junior outfits. He managed the teams as well. So ever since I could, my mum and dad never drove.
Yeah. So
my dad always used to get picked up for the games, and I would follow him around to the shop saying, I want to come in the car and watch the game. And he was always like, there's no space in the car, there's no space. But eventually I got to go quite a bit of time, and then before the games, there would be maybe a few of the other kids that were a bit older, to be fair. And I would be kicking about behind the goal when the game was on with them, or we'd go on at half time on the goal up at Whitehall. So that was that. And then once I was 8, one of my good friends, Grant Stewart, his dad took the local team, which was kind of Adina Hibs, but they were a year older than me. So I went in at under 10s just when I first started at Adina Hibs, and played the year above myself. Started to play there, and just again, you're just trying to get a game. As your friends are there, you're trying to you go to train a couple of nights a week and things, and it was just for there, but it was for a young age. I just loved kicking the ball about, whether it's out in the street with the tennis ball off the curb back and volleying against the hedge, kicking it in the neighbour's garden and not getting it back. So it was again, I've always just loved the game, and it's just obviously. It's been part of my life for a long time now, and hopefully it will be moving forward for the next 30, 40 years as well.
That's a great image, that, Kenny. I'd forgotten about that one. I was speaking to Tomo a couple of weeks ago, and we were speaking about, you're describing now about playing football with your mates, in the street and that. But then you've described a great one, which I forgot about, playing behind the goals when there's a game on.
That's on. There's a fence at Whitehall. There's a wee kind of hole behind one of the goals, and there's a fence, and the 2 posts that support the fence. That's the goal. So it was. Like I say, we went all the time, and at half time or before the game and after the game, you want to go into the pitch, into the big goal, and kick the ball into the goal that's actually got a net on it. That was for a young age. That's probably one of my first memories, was behind that goal. And I remember the 2 lads. I think the 2 lads that were playing were a little bit older, and I think they were maybe had an involvement with Tynecastle, the boys club. So happened a few years later, I actually went and played for Tiny's kind of rivals, Hutchie. I was at Hutchie for a few years, and it was. But yeah, it's probably one of the earliest memories I've got. But I imagine at that point I was probably about 5 or 6 years old at that point.
It's incredible, isn't it, when we speak and we're talking about Scotland just now. I'm sure it's the same in a lot of other countries, just how important football is to people, and especially when you're growing up, isn't it? It just can become your whole world almost.
Well, it did for me, like that was it. I mean, it was, when you talk about like behind the goals, and you've got like, we lived in the estate, and it's got like, I think at one point, a few years, maybe when I was, again, probably a similar age, they shut a bit of the street off with the ball out, so you couldn't drive through. So it wasn't a main road, so street become like round the block. You came in, you had to come back out that way. So it was only people really coming in to visit or to live there, it would come that way. So you could actually get on the street. Yeah, listen, a car would come every now and again. By the way, I would never let my kids do it, but do it in the street, and I would be going two ways. There was a hedge at one side and there was a wall at the other side, and you'd be off the car back, you'd be volleying into the hedge and volleying against the wall. You know, you'd be out for hours on your own just practicing, you know. So it was, you'd invented wee games up, you'd Champions League games or going to be European Cup games, and you were just out playing. And for me, it was, and I had a decent sized garden because we were on the end of the four on a block, and we had the long garden rather than the wee back and front garden. So we had quite a decent sized garden. We could go and have a kick about with me and my brother and things as well. So, but it wasn't just football; it's just sport in general. That's all it's all we had to do. I mean, anytime Wimbledon came up, we had the net and halfway the garden. We were playing the tennis in the garden, or we'd be watching the golf. We'd have the golf clubs out chipping over the back, you know. So it was everything, every sport we could play, anything. When that big sport that was on at that time, like I said, whether it be Wimbledon or the golf, we'd be playing that. And football was all year round. And for me, it was always about football. You know, I just right for the first, like I said, for the first minute I could walk. I probably had a ball at my feet.
Who, when you got a little bit older, then influenced you as a player? Who were the coaches that had big influences on you?
Obviously Parky, because Parky was the first real coach that I came across. Obviously, boys club managers and things that you're coming through the ranks with. That's somebody's dad, or you know, it's the way it works at that level. And they guys were great as well. And playing for Hutchie was a brilliant experience because they were winners, they won things, and that again, that built into what I was about. I mean, I've always been that. I always want to win. So Parky, I came across Parky when I was 12, and I was going into Hibs at school holidays, doing the training on Easter and Christmas and summer sometimes as well. The October week, I would always be pro, and Parky was just there all the time. You know, he'd be doing everything. You could see him with the ground staff, organising the ground staff, but then he would always have a hand in what we were doing as well. So that was the first kind of take on him. And then when you go full time, he's our boss. You know, he's in charge of the ground staff. I think it was about 14 of us, and he was just brilliant. You know, his detail back then was, I mean, real ahead of his time. And that's, I said before we were coming on, like in '96 I'd started out as a 16-year-old coming out of school, and it was we had dietitians, we had sprint coaches, we had sports psychologists. We're all in to try and help. We had all that kind of stuff there to give us. We had all the tools, and then you had one of the best coaches that you've. I mean, again, to this day, still one of the best coaches that I work with, because as a young player, you need to understand the steps and the sacrifice that you need to make if you want to make it to the top of the game. Because there's one thing making your breakthrough in the first team, but the other thing staying there. And Parky gave us all that, and like I said, the harshness that he described in your chat the other day was absolutely harsh, but there was an honesty about it that if you understood that, then you were always going to have that opportunity. And that Parky would, again, it was one of the things. See, when he's harsh on you, it's because he cares, you know, like, and that's what the man is like. He cares, and we've seen that from the minute I kind of seen him. You could see again just by the work that he was doing that he actually really cared about the environment that he was in and the people that he was working with. So if you understood that, then you would get on really well with him, and you would respond to the demands that the little man put on you. And that's the thing. I liked the demand getting put on me, because I always wanted to push. I just wanted to push all the time. So, and he did. He pushed us all the way.
How important do you think that, you know, the strength of the relationship between the coach and the player is, Kenny?
I think back then it was, like, again, Parky, I heard Parky talk about that fear, right? And I believe you need that, you know. I believe, and it's maybe fear's the wrong word. Maybe respect's the word, you know, because if you respect them, then you'll probably take on board the information more, because you know it's for your benefit and the team's benefit. But the relationship nowadays, I think, has developed so much more, because I think mentalities are a lot. I mean, football's football. You know, there's nothing that's going to be done now that's not been done before. There's so many different areas to the game now that have found their way into football. But the relationship between the player and the coach and the player and the manager, I think, is really important now. I think there's so much, you need to look so much more into it's not just the player now, it's the person, it's the human being. I think you need to, like one of the first things we've done and is actually get to know the players, find out if they've got kids, or the wives, if they're younger, are they still with their parents, what do your parents, just trying to build in your head, you're building up this like database on the player and on the person, and you're trying to, so it can make you understand what makes them tick. And again, the best coaches, the best managers out there, they make people better. So, and it doesn't matter what level it's at. It could be at Pep Guardiola's level, who's got some world class, some of the best footballers in the world. I could guarantee you right now that a Kevin De Bruyne or a David Silva or a Sergio Aguero will say Pep Guardiola made me better. So strip that back to our level or lower level. Your first job is to make people better. And to make them better, I think nowadays you need to understand what's going to make them better, how they're going to respond to criticism, how they're going to respond to praise. You need to work that out. So the relationship between coach or manager and players now, I think is really, really big, because players are different. Their mentalities are different. The whole society is different. For what it was when I first started as well, and definitely when Parky first started. You know, so you have to evolve with that as much as you keep your football as your football, and and the detail and the preparation for that is crucial. But with a player, you need to treat them firstly as a human being and find out what they're about there. I mean, their abilities and things. Again, if you believe in yourself as a coach and a manager, you'll always believe you'll be able to make that better. Or understanding what you want better, but I think you need to tap into the psychology side of it firstly to understand how you can make them better, because there'll be loads of different ways that you can do that, you know.
And that's a great way to put it, Kenny, in terms of just be curious, isn't it? Curious about who's that in front of you, what's their story, what makes sense to them, man.
Well, there was a wee thing, Dom. So when there was a young lad, like I'll not name names or anything about it, but there was a young lad that we had been told had a chance. And when we go out there, everybody says, "Oh, he's a funny character." And we went, all right. So we didn't know that because he never played in any of the games. He was on the fringes, and so we got on. And so like I said, the gaffer is a real people person. He wants to get to know, and I can talk. I mean, you'll be here all day talking all if you know, I talk all day. So we just started talking to him. Just communicate. It wasn't even anything about football. It's just, how are you getting on, blah, blah, blah. What did you do yesterday? Did you go to the beach, blah, blah, blah. What did you do on your day off? And a lot of people would say, but he's funny, but he's hard to get through. And then, honestly, see when you see the kid play, he's got ability. There's no doubt about it. And everybody said that. But I don't think anybody engaged him. You know, they never, he might be a wee bit different. He's a young man, you know, and he's a young player trying to make his way in football, and he needs the same time as, I mean, some people are so easy to talk to, you know. I know what you mean. Everybody's like that, you know. So we need to now find a way what interests him, you know. How can we engage him? Because I'll tell you, as a player, he's got ability. So we want to, like I said, we're not a big club with huge resources, like, you know. If we've got young players who we can maybe push on and get involved and save the club money or maybe sell them on and make a bit, that's a huge part of football nowadays. Never mind other football, but when you're a smaller club with limited resources, that's got to be something. Massive, so, and like I said, he's got talent, he's got ability. So just speaking to someone and finding out a little bit more, I think that maybe endears you.
Definitely.
To them a bit more, you know, and it makes, well, listen, like you say, Parky, he actually maybe cares. It's not just a throwaway. Because I've spoke to people who in football, and even in the last couple of years when I'm a bit older, and I'm now thinking about, I've actually been a coach and a manager. I've actually been a manager, and I'm working with people, and I'm thinking, like, they'll speak to you, and then next minute you see they're away somewhere else, you know, and they're not actually, they're asking you a question, but they're not really asked for the answer, Donald, you know, they're away somewhere else, and I clock that straight away. So I end up cutting it short. Because I've not got time for that. I'm here to learn. I'm here to get better, and I'm here to win. If you're just talking for the sake of talking, we might as well just move on, you know. I think when people see that you're caring and you give them a bit of time and find out a bit about them. For me, like I said, to go back to that in terms of the player-coach relationship, it's absolutely huge.
I think it's massive, Kenny. And talking about yourself coming back there, and what I can hear from what you're saying is that, you know, you've played at the very highest level and continue to go forward. And you've said it there as a young player, you obviously like the pressure, the perceived pressure obviously got the best out of you. Did you like that, how higher it went at?
Loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, it's when you've got that demand put on you, and again, that was from early with Parky, put a lot of demands on us. And then I've just been that way with myself as well. You know, I've always put myself, I mean, again, I don't ever claim to be the best footballer that's ever played, but I put some serious demands on myself to push as far as I could go, you know. But so I, in the places I played, when it comes down to it, I've always loved that cup final, that playing for, I mean, when you're a club like Rangers and Celtic for that matter, the demands at these clubs are so, I mean, it's, again, what the way I look at things, see the winning any game or any competition, there's a process, and I believe in the process to get to the end result. But sometimes we focus too much on winning. It's just win, but it's how do we win? You know, how are we going to win? Because winning's great, but we need to have something that's going to give us that chance to win each and every single time we play a game. So that's the process, you know. But at these clubs, at the start of a season, you ask any Rangers or Celtic player what their goal is: win the league. Well, win the league, you need to win a lot of games. Each one of these games is going to be different. So how do we win these games? So there's a way that I would like to work to that. Ultimately, the pressure that's on each player, each manager to go and deliver success at these football clubs is huge. And I love that. And that's something that, again, I've spent a lot longer at Rangers, that it was the one thing about that club, and when I was in it, even at that last wee 4 years there, on the journey back to the SPL, the one thing that was always kind of asked, I was getting asked, is how do you get that mentality back, and how do you get that? And it was always going to be hard. And the only way I could, the only kind of answer I could give to it was you need to find players with the mentality who thrive. Not just handle, thrive on that. They need to thrive on that atmosphere. They need to thrive on that pressure. And guys, when I was there before they came, guys like Steve Davis and guys like McGregor, they were guys I thought we need to get them back. Naismiths, we need to get them because they've lived it. And I've been in dressing room, and like again, Alan McGregor, he thrives on it, you know. So these kind of mentality, I've been that guy. I've always loved the pressure, you know, and whether I've been and now as a coach, I love it, because and we think we need to get these boys responding. We need to get them believing. We need to get them performing, and we need to get results. I want to get to the top. I want to get very, very top of the management coaching game now. So whether that's being me as a manager or it's me as part of a management team, I want to get to the highest possible level I can. So it's how do you do that? And again, with that comes the pressure that I put on myself, you know, and put on, and me and the manager and our staff put on ourselves.
And how are you finding going on this coaching journey? Because it's only, when did you stop playing? It's not that long ago, your last game, Kenny, really, is it?
Well, it was mid-January. It was mid-January, so it did come about pretty quickly. I mean, when you get to my age, even for the last 4 or 5 years, Don, there's been wee opportunities that arose about to make that transition. But I think the first one was maybe I was about 36 and I was still playing at Rangers. I think we had just finished the championships, winning season under MacNaughton, and a few things came up then, and I was like, no chance. I'm playing here. I'm playing at I want to be playing at as well, and I'm playing pretty much 90% of the games, and I've had a really good season. I want to kick on into next year. So then I had another good year. And then, you know, I mean, I would see if what had happened at Partick, and even over the last couple of years, Don, if what had happened never happened, I'd still be playing.
That's brilliant, Kenny.
And you know what? You never know. There might be a comeback in the It's I would still, because I physically, honestly, I feel great. I'm doing work at the moment that I get programs sent through from loads of different sources that are still playing, and I'm doing the programs, and all my numbers stack up. I still feel great, but it's just been really, it's been good stuff, you know. It's been good stuff, but because of what happened with Partick, and then Robbo had been getting. He's been trying, like I said, he'd been trying to get back for about 4 or 5 months. It took about 6 months, and I think he was quite happy. And then for 4 or 5 months, he was like, I'm itching to get back in here. So this opportunity was on the horizon, and I'd say to him, look, would you want to come? And I'd say, I would, because in my head, it would always be the right opportunity that would lead me to retiring, rather than me retiring and thinking, right, what am I going to do next? So it kind of, everything fell into place. Robbo got the job, Carl Robinson got the job, asked me to go, had a look at it and thought, yeah, I quite fancy it. I mean, initially it's quite a big step because of what it is. But see, when you're in it, Don, it's like you wake up every morning, you go to work. If I'm here, I wake up, I go to work. It's just the fact that you're on the other side of the world, and you're away from family and friends. Even getting to have contact with people is quite hard. When I went out there initially on my own, you're speaking to the missing kids in the morning and at night, because you're actually on the other time scales, you know, the opposite time scale. So it's, but once you're there, it's been great, you know. Like I said, really enjoyed it. It's been some good stuff. The players have been, honestly, I know all managers and coaches always do it, and it's a bit of psychology as well. But the group that we've got, honestly, is absolutely outstanding. Very like when I first went in at Livingston, the group at Livingston, I knew straight away things would be fine there. I knew Livingston would be fine. I knew if things had not been how they were, things would have moved on for me there as well, because the group on itself was always going to be built to succeed or to have some level of success, because they're togetherness. And this reminds me a lot of what we've got now at Newcastle. It's an excellent group coupled with some really good footballers.
Brilliant, Kenny. So just to finish with, and it's been great speaking to you, because you can see your love of the game and your enthusiasm and that drive to get, and because I totally believe what you're saying, because you would go out and play today if you could, wouldn't you? You can feel it.
I'd love to go and play today. I was always at the gaff if there's numbers that need made up. I'm into training and things, but see, when you get to this age, and guys, older pros will tell you this, your calves are one of the first things that go. So when you're not constantly working and warming up properly, so I dipped into a possession session one day, and I went and popped a 1-2, so I threw past it and scored a goal, and my calf just went pop, and I thought, I need to watch that. So now I'm actually working at that now to make sure when we go back now that doesn't happen again. So, but it's one of the first things that goes, and it can be. I remember Ali, because Ali McCoy was the same. He loved training with the boys, getting involved in the sessions, and he would always say, my calf's gone. So it was always the calves that seemed to go when you get to that older pro. But I still love it. If I could go and have a training session, a game, or a kick about, it'd be great.
See what you just said there, Kenny. I think it's a real good learning for anyone that's listening, either a player or a coach, because when you're describing to me about, the calf going, you never left it at that. What you said was, I'll go away and do things that make sure that doesn't happen again or minimise it, is it?
Yeah.
A great lesson for everyone, actually.
But this is one thing that, this is like when a lot of people, I've worked with a lot of managers, probably more than most of them, and then I counted that up, I was upwards of 30 managers over the years, and there's been some unbelievable managers and coaches I've worked with, and there's been some not so good ones, but they're just as important. They're just as important for the learning curve that maybe you wouldn't do that, or like the guy like Glenn Hoddle. I worked with Glenn Hoddle at Wolves. What a coach. Excellent player, obviously an unbelievable footballer, but excellent coach and manager. Real different way of thinking as well. And again, similar to Parky, was ahead of his time. He was doing real detailed work and preparation on us from the minute he came into Wolves to the minute I left. Then obviously Walter Smith, he was the one that every player will have maybe one, maybe two max, I would say, coaches or managers over the course of their career that really seem to get the best out of them. And Walter again, similar to Parky. When I worked with Parky, and just that response, it just seemed to fit. Walter was like that as well. But it was Mark Warburton had came in into Rangers in 2015, was it 2015? And he was one of the ones like, what with like coaches and managers, everyone's different, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a different view on the game, and in the last couple of years, I've worked with some that have completely different views, you know. But each can be successful, and in any game of football, you can win. But Warbs came in, and he was a kind of newer age, you know. He came to the game later, obviously. He's well documented his background in is it bank in London, kind of banking and things like that, and he talks about the deals, the $1 million deals that he does and things that they have to do on a daily basis. And he came in with the thing that just come in every day and be better. You know, like whether they're the young lad or whether you're me, because I was the oldest, or whether you're me at the oldest, just come in and be better. Every day be better, you know. And that was something that it kind of stuck with me, and it has stuck with me. You know, he's right, and it can be anything. No, it might not even be something football-wise. You know, it could be something like, I would remember when we'd be sitting at Murray Park sometimes having breakfast, and see when sometimes there was a few foreigners came in and out over that last few years there, and the two kitchen ladies, Jean and Martha, who looked after us, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and they've been there forever. They were there the first time when I was there back in the day, and they're brilliant people. We had Al in the kitchen as well, who these guys live for the football club, you know, and they're doing it for you. So just having manners, you know, just thanking them morning, how he's doing, like asking, again, similar, just talking to people and making them feel valued and things. And I always remember sometimes a few foreigners came in and maybe never even got to know their name, or never, like if they were asking for their poached eggs in the morning, can I have my poached eggs? And there was no please. You know, so there even be things like that you can improve on that side of it as well, just being a better person, you know. So it doesn't always have to be, right, my shooting was better, or my passing was better, or I ran further or faster. It could be just something off the field that, by the way, might help somebody else. Might help somebody else be better, you know, or make their day a wee bit better, because in football, you can get caught up and it's all about, but there's other people surrounding, you know, a big support network. And the one thing that I believe really, really strongly, and again, I first kind of noticed this with Walter, when Walter took over with the national team. So it came in off the back of Bertie Vogts, and there was a wee bit of a poor end to that. I mean, Bertie was actually good. He just never got the response. He never got the response from the team that he maybe would have got for where he had come from. But anyway, Walter came in, and he kind of got all the staff together and been part of it. He brought wee Billy McCulloch, the masseur. You've probably heard many a story about Billy McCulloch. He's a Chelsea masseur that Walter got into the Scotland setup, and he's a genius first and foremost about what he does. But what a character! The Chelsea lads always talked about. So we had Walter. Walter had him in his first game. We were playing Italy in the San Siro. Had Billy McCulloch up in front of the boys a minute before we were going out to play Italy in Walter's first game, and he was telling jokes. And you know, like, he just seemed to involve everybody. I had that way of Walter that Omar, the play liaison, or if it was Richard Simpson, or if it was the physios, or if it was Billy. Everybody had their role to play, you know. And some roles might be smaller than others, but it doesn't mean they're any less important, you know. And I'm a believer in that every single person's got the chef upstairs in the kitchen who's cooking the dinners and the breakfast and the lunches every day. They've all got their wee role, because they're all part of something, you know. They're all part of it. And that, for me, just even making sure these people are all right and happy in their work, because I've been through some real tough times over years. And you see people who somebody might leave, like in Rangers, you know, Rangers peaked through the tougher times. People are losing jobs, you know. Some of them, people lost their jobs, and that could affect somebody else who was still there, because there had been relationships over a number of years. And again, so a wee arm with Martha or Jean, or asking somebody, how you doing? How was everyone all right? It just maybe makes other people sort of say, be better every day, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be better at your passing, your shooting, your running, your dribbling, your heading, your tackling. It could be so many other. It could be learning. It could be looking at analysing the game. It could be like we had a really good analyst. We had an analysis every single day with words. So even that side of it it's an education of like what's actually needed. And by the way, I actually do that now. We don't have an analyst in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So me and the goalie coach, Chris Boland, we go through the video every day for pre-game, post-game, thing up, taking it to the gaffer will then run through it with us and he'll tell us what he wants. So even that side, it's like, what goes into preparing that 8-minute video for hours?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, absolutely mentally drained. Been sat for hours going through set play after set play and pattern after pattern and watching the team to see where their strengths and weaknesses are. We spend hours doing it and then we put up a wee 8-minute video. For the players, and the players think, oh, it's brilliant, we'll just watch this. We've spent about 8 hours doing you know. So even that's an education. So for players watching, so players who are doing that analysis, who have got any kind of vision of going into being coach, even that, like, it's real. It is real. I mean, I love it because I've done it all anyway. You know, as a player, I would watch games back and games back and games back. I never had to do the analysis side of it, but I did analyse it. I analysed it watching where I think we could have been better, things we've done well, things we never. And then, so I was then prepared for when we done the analysis, I could then give my view. Particularly under Mark Warburton. Let's say we done analysis every day. So, and he was big on the feedback. He was big on the feedback for the players. So I wanted to be ready that I would give. I knew what I was going to be talking about, and I was ready to. I knew how we had done or how we had. You know, always found within a game when I watched it back how I thought the game was, not what that's how it was. Even when I've watched it back a couple of times. Sometimes, normally it's not as if you thought it was poor, it's normally not as poor as what you thought it was. But it always is kind of normally where I thought it was. So when I was watching it back, I could remember the bits of the game that I was wanting to talk about or wanting to think what happened there. So it's even that side of it for when you go on every day. That's the now that I'm actually in it. I understand and I realise the work that goes into that wee 8-minute video, 12-minute video, 6-minute video. There's so much work and preparation goes into it. Is unbelievable, you know. So even
what's brilliant about that, Kenny, what you're saying is because it's your sometimes through necessity, isn't it? We have to learn something. So, but I'm learning how to do that. I'm doing the video, but also you're spending all that time looking at the players again, aren't you? So you're clipping it, but you're constantly looking at them, watching them.
Listen, it's non-stop because that's. I mean, again, this is not everybody's like that.
Yeah,
I've been like that for a long time. Even as a player, I would come home and after a game, I would be like, right, we won, great. Yeah. But what I found towards the end of my career is whether I've been at Rangers or Dundee or at Partick, that when we won a game, it was like we had actually won the league. Not so much the Rangers, but when we'd won a game, there was a lot to celebrate. But see, for me, when we win a game, it's a relief. 3 points are in the bin, it's parked, and it's on to the next game, you know. So I always came home, and whether we won, lose, or draw, I was always, right, what's the game? Let's see. Again, firstly, as a player, for me, how do I do? What can I do? But again, when you get a bit older, it's more the collective. Like, what could we do better? Like, how can our positions be better? Or how can the structure of our team be better defensively? Is the back line coming high enough up so we can squeeze the game? Is the forwards in the right positions to initiate a press? I'm looking at all these things, and I always brought this home to me even as a player. So now, as a coach, when, like you say, you need to do it. And there is a necessity to do it, because when you've got a really, really good analyst, they'll understand what a manager wants or a coach wants, and they can go away and do it. They can come back and say, look, this is what I've got. And then you can maybe make me tweaks here or there. But when you've not got it, you need to find a way. And the goalkeeping coach across there, Chris Bowen, who's good, and he's very good at that stuff as well. He's been great for me, because me and him sit next to the computer screen every single day, and he knows all that stuff. So I've now kind of learned now how to clip it, how I do this, how I use that, how I shorten the clip, lengthen the clip. And it's also for the individual improvement. The individual development of players. So when you're looking at, we had the striker in at the end of the season, and just showing him his stuff to see how it does. Then you'll get midfielders in to say, look, or you'll get an individual in who's, if something's maybe not quite right and it's happening game after game, it might be, look, you maybe need to alter your thinking about this certain situation, because it's not a one-off. It's 3, 4, 5 times it's happened in different games that is causing us a problem. So you maybe need to look at that. So that's where all that really, it's a huge tool, you know. It's a huge tool, but like I said, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you need to be willing to put that work in. But for me, putting that work in, listen, it is draining, and sometimes it gets monotonous and boring, right? But if it's going to make one player better, it's maybe going to make my team better, which is then going to maybe make me have a chance to be a success and be to have the manager have an opportunity to succeed. It might be to win that next game. It could be so important, you know. So you need to put the time in, and it is hard work. But you're watching football, you know. Like the one thing about it is coming out of the season, the lockdown, it was 2 months absolute immersed in the job. So I've said to the gaffer the other night, I says I've actually enjoyed having a few weeks where I've not shut off, but I'm not just watching football constantly. I'm not watching opposition constantly. I'm not thinking, right, how can we get the better of that shape, or how can we abuse that poor setup? You know, like how can we really take advantage of their setup? You know, so it's been nice to have a wee bit of a break in it, but. So when you go back into it, like, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Brilliant, Kenny. And I think that's a great message for us all, really. You know, players, coaches, anyone just in your life is get up in the morning and look to be better. And sometimes it's about you can help someone else, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's something that in the last few years there, I've always kind of thought it in my mindset on football clubs and how you can get a successful group has always kind of been the same, but that in particular, again, everything that kind of happened in the last few years, to me personally, I thought I would never. That's made that point even more relevant, you know.
Brilliant, Kenny. Well, thanks very much for your time, Henry. That was brilliant, and I'm sure everybody will find a lot of great stuff there. Cheers, mate.
Brilliant, cheers, pal.
Cheers.